Chapter 41 Repeatedly Ignoring School Rules. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Percy regretted it. What did he follow when he had nothing to do? Looking at Harry and Ron's appearance, you can tell that this matter has something to do with them. He wanted to give them a symbolic warning, and then let them go. After all, Gryffindor's prefect deducted Gryffindor's points, which is hard to say. Moreover, one of these two is his own younger brother, and the other is their Gryffindor star, which is even more difficult. But now there's an extra Slytherin here, doing favoritism. Can people agree? Ahem. Percy put on an air of selflessness, and asked, "You two, be honest, did you two do this?" Percy, "No, prefect, I don't know anything at all." Ron said eagerly, feeling wronged, but as soon as he finished saying this, he looked at Harry in astonishment, because if he didn't do it, then it could only be Harry. Sure enough, Harry nodded next. "It's none of Ron's business, I did it." "Harry, you've disappointed me so much. I haven't been to the restricted section a few times. You are committing a crime knowingly." Percy pointed at Harry bitterly. If it was business, he would leave the dormitory in the middle of the night and enter the restricted area to read the forbidden books. If the two were added together, their Gryffindors would deduct points, and Harry had to locked up for a period of time, at least until the end of the holiday. Aaron stopped the angry Percy, and said gently, "Actually, this matter is not small, but it is not big, but in my opinion, there is no need to be so serious. It is common for us first-year freshmen to be unable to control their curiosity. It's the holiday period now, and Christmas just passed yesterday. Senior, don't hold me accountable, just take it as a way to save me, and, I see Harry was wrong now too." "You." Percy hesitated to speak, but of course he saw what Aaron meant, that he wanted to spare Harry once. Although he didn't quite understand it, he had no reason to refuse. "Okay. But there is still a necessary punishment, otherwise he won't have a long memory," Percy said very seriously. "Then let Harry copy the school rules during the holidays, the one with the general outline and details." Aaron suggested, "Let Ron supervise it himself." Harry didn't speak, just nodded weakly. There is no way. Who made him violate the school rules? It would be easy to say if he hadn't been caught, but since he was caught, he had to admit it. Ron complained a bit, that school rule book is not so thick. Harry couldn't finish copying it during the holidays. "That's your business." Aaron shrugged indifferently. "Okay, it's settled. I still have something to do, so I'll leave first," Percy said, then quickly stood up and walked towards the door of the lounge, not wanting to stay here for a moment. After Percy left, Ron pouted, "Copying a copy of the school rules is too much." Aaron couldn't deny it, but compared to Gryffindor being deducted points, "I think Harry still prefers to copy school rules. I said before to let Percy leave, but you two are quite stubborn. What can I do? We didn't know that you came here with evidence. Besides, it's Percy Africa who wants to listen." Harry immediately covered Ron's mouth. "Stop talking. I'm willing to be punished. Compared with the punishment in the school regulations, this is considered very light. It's good to know, but don't be pessimistic. I told Ron to supervise. Why is it not up to you to copy? Even if a word is not written, who would know?" Harry and Ron glanced at each other, and the sadness on their faces disappeared in an instant, and they both showed meaningful smiles, like a scumbag who successfully cheated. "That's right, the punishment is fixed, but how to operate it is determined by them. As far as their relationship is concerned, there seems to be no difference between this punishment and no punishment." Ahem. Aaron sat on the sofa, crossing his legs. "I really didn't expect Harry to be so courageous. You should really copy the school rules. I warned you, it's not a place for you yet. Do you know what punishment you face if caught by Filch? The points Hermione gave you to Gryffindor for most of the semester are not enough for you to be deducted for this violation of discipline." "Sorry." Harry lowered his head in shame. He didn't regret that he ventured to the restricted area yesterday, he just regretted that he didn't do things so rigorously. "Don't tell me you're sorry. I'm from Slytherin, and whether or not Gryffindor points are deducted has nothing to do with me. I just simply don't want to see her lose her temper when she comes back from vacation." Aaron's eyes exuded a sharp look, which made both Harry and Ron feel a little pressure. "So is it time to explain what happened in the restricted section?" Harry, what happened to you, able to drop a lantern to the ground? The books over there are a bit different. Harry hesitated, and the bad memories of last night emerged in his mind. Everything was going well at first, and he wandered the restricted area looking for clues related to Nicole Flamel, but after opening a book, a hideous and terrifying human face spewed out from that book, and the words in the book kept swimming on this human face, which looked very strange. In particular, this human face actually made a shrill cry, as if it was about to rush out of the book, in the middle of the night. When an 11-year-old child encounters such a creepy thing, it would be a lie to say that he is not afraid. It must be different. Otherwise, why would it be called a banned book? Aaron rolled his eyes, a little speechless. Not only that, I also met Mrs. Norris, and Filch almost got caught. TSK. Then your luck is really good, but I'm curious how you broke into the restricted area in the middle of the night. Although Mrs. Pance's management is a little less during the holidays, it's impossible for you to get in so easily. Harry's heart skipped a beat, but after hesitating for a moment, he decided to tell Aaron about the invisibility cloak. He also knows that showing off his cleverness in front of a smart person will only bring shame on himself, and Aaron also regarded him as a friend just now, so it's not impossible to tell him. But before he could speak, Ron said it for him. It should be the invisibility cloak. It's Harry's father's relic. Invisibility cloak. Aaron became a little interested, and the rarity of that thing was no less than his magic carpet. That's a very rare magic item, but I don't want to use it unless necessary in the future. In the eyes of some great magicians, this magical magic item is useless. Oh. Harry suddenly realized, no wonder I was almost found by Snape yesterday. Snape, Professor X2. Both Aaron and Ron were a little surprised. Harry went to the restricted area to find information about Nicole Flamel, and they knew about it, but Snape didn't need to go at night. Harry, what happened last night? Aaron asked seriously. I just saw Professor Snape seem to be bullying Professor Quirrell, saying, I'm not your enemy, you better find out who your allegiance is. I don't know what it means, but I can be sure that Snape definitely has a dark secret. Harry said while paying attention to Aaron's expression. He thought in his heart that Snape was not a good person, and wanted to steal something guarded by Momo. Now it's just a vaccination for Aaron. No matter how much he respects Snape, he should be a little wary when he hears this. Sure enough, Aaron's face became cloudy and uncertain, and a stone in Harry's heart fell to the ground. But what he didn't know was that Aaron didn't doubt Snape, but wondered if he knew that Quirrell had Voldemort's remnant soul in him. If you don't know, then it doesn't matter. At most, you have discovered some small movements of Quirrell and issued a warning, but if you know, it means that Voldemort fell into the trap from the very beginning, and the danger of his subsequent system tasks will be greatly reduced. Either way, it's in his favor. Harry, God knows about this matter, you know we know it, and no one else should know about it. Also, be quiet during this period of time, don't make mistakes again, understand? Understood. I also know the seriousness of the matter. Harry said, by the way, I found a magical mirror on the first floor when I was leaving. I actually saw my parents in the mirror. What? Ron was surprised. Why didn't you tell me such important information earlier? You really should have taken me there last night. There's a chance, said Harry, you can come with me tonight. Aaron, are you coming? I can introduce my parents to you, maybe I can see what your family looks like too. Aaron, co-author, what I said just now is meaningless. One violation of school rules is fine, but now I want to add Ron, and I want to drag me into the water again. Isn't this operation a bit abnormal? Chapter 42. You are listening at novelfull.audio. On the second night, Harry, Ron, and Aaron huddled in the invisibility cloak, carefully walked through the corridor, climbed an unknown number of stairs, and came to an empty classroom. This classroom is full of dust, like a place where debris is piled up. In addition to a pile of tables and chairs, a particularly tall mirror is placed by the wall. That's right, it's here. This is the mirror I was talking about. Harry couldn't wait to take off his invisibility cloak, and pointed at the clean mirror excitedly. Have you seen it? These are my parents. But I only see the three of us, said Ron. Change the angle and stand over here. Harry pulled Ron over so that he could see the mirror better. Okay, see them now. that just as Harry was about to point him to his parents in the mirror, Ron shouted excitedly, "That's me, I'm the head of the boys' union, and I'm holding the Quidditch cup, it's a great thing, I also became the Quidditch captain, I'm so proud." "Harry, can this mirror show future events? How is it possible?" Harry lowered his head regretfully, "My parents are both dead. It's really impossible." Aaron said meaningfully, "This is definitely not something in the future." "Aaron, what about you? What did you see?" Ron asked with interest. "Let me see." Aaron walked to the front of the mirror, and Harry and Ron consciously made room for him. 10 seconds later, Aaron stroked his chin, lost in thought. How could this be? "What did you say?" Harry asked. Aaron shook his head, "Unfortunately, I only see myself, and the mirror treats people differently." "You mean you don't see your parents like Harry, and you don't become the president of the student union like me?" Ron said in surprise, and then patted Aaron's shoulder with a little sympathy. "You can only see yourself, such a magic item is of no use to you. Can you move your hands away?" Aaron rolled his eyes speechlessly, pointed to the golden frame of the mirror and said, "You guys better look at the words engraved on this mirror. Eris Stella Uru Iad is incomparable Kafru Adian Voorhees." Aaron read the above words word by word. Obviously this is a string of garbled characters, such a person may not be found in the entire magic world, but this is not a person's name, but a sentence introducing this mirror. You can find out by spelling the letters of these words backwards. Harry and Ron glanced at each other, looked at the frame of the mirror at the same time, and then said in unison, "It shows us the deepest and most desperate desires in our hearts." "So the mirror will let us see what we want to see?" Harry asked. "That's right. But how can you only see yourself?" Ron asked curiously, and then he thought of something, and opened his mouth in astonishment. "You don't have something you desire, right? It's too pitiful." "No, you can't say that." Aaron shook his head. "As long as you are a human being, you will have desires, and I can't be without desires, but my desires cannot be reflected in the mirror." "Sounds great, so what is your desire?" Aaron froze for a moment, then turned around and gave Ron a meaningful smile. "Do you think I should tell you? This is already personal privacy." Ron smiled awkwardly. "I don't mean anything else, just curious." "Then trouble you to put away your curiosity." "Aaron, can you make room for me first?" Harry said with some embarrassment, "I still want to see my parents, they are gone, maybe I can only see them through this mirror." "Okay." Aaron stepped aside and made a "please" gesture. "Thank you." Harry simply thanked, and then stood quietly in front of the mirror. His eyes gradually became gentle, and he stretched out his hand to caress the mirror, with a faint smile on his face. The beauty and warmth of being reunited with his family is beyond words, but Harry's expression seems a little silly to Aaron and Ron. 10 minutes later, Ron hesitated to speak, and asked with some concern, "Is he going to be okay?" "No, it's just that I can't extricate myself for a while after seeing the family affection I long for most in my heart, but you have to be careful not to let him sink deeper and deeper. No matter how beautiful things you see in the mirror are always illusions, simply remembering and motivating yourself is enough, but wasting time for fantasies is the greatest tragedy." "Ron. You're preaching." "No, what you said made a lot of sense, but why should I pay attention? Is there even a need to ask? You are Harry Potter's best friend, inseparable all day long, who else is more suitable than you?" Ron opened his mouth and stood up straight with pride. "You are right, as his best friend, I have to pull him out." With that said, Ron walked up to Harry and grabbed his arm. "Harry, you need to rest. Let me watch it for a while." "No, you're almost seeing yourself in." Ron said righteously, "Let me watch for a while." Puff. Hearing this, Aaron almost lost his breath. "This Nima is the so-called best friend, I thought it was so deep." Result, that's it, the plastic brotherhood is a bit disappointing. Ahem. Although it's a little unpleasant, I still want to disturb you. It's time for us to go. If you don't sleep at night, come here to look at a broken mirror. Aren't you bored? Harry and Ron looked at each other, then shook their heads in unison. Although I know that the things in the mirror are fake, but the comfort to the soul is not so great, so I naturally want to look at it for a while." Aaron held his forehead and shook his head. "It's my biggest failure this semester to see this broken mirror with you too." "Ha! Don't say that." Ron smiled awkwardly. "Why don't you come over and try again, maybe you can see your desire." "That's not necessary, I prefer to be down to earth than to be in the mirror, and I hope you are too," Aaron said, and then ignored Harry and Ron's weird expressions, and walked towards the door on his own. "I'll go first, and I wish you two good night." "Wait a minute." Harry called him hastily. "You don't have an invisibility cloak, so it's not safe to go out." "I have my method." Aaron took out a transparent bottle, invisibility potion, meaningfully, then pushed open the door and walked out. "I always feel that he is sometimes more serious than my mother," Ron said with a twitching corner of his mouth. Harry nodded, and was about to speak when he heard a boom. The door opened suddenly, and Aaron ran over in a panic. "Then what? I think we have to leave, but we may have to hide before then." "Why?" "I haven't seen enough," Harry said reluctantly. "That's right, I haven't watched it yet." "I saw Mrs. Norris, is that enough reason?" Ron was startled for a moment, and asked nervously, "You mean that cat?" Filch swun. "If not," as soon as the words fell, the three heard cat meowing. Harry and Ron trembled subconsciously. Without any nonsense, they pulled up the invisibility cloak decisively, and covered Aaron in it. By the way, after a while, a light yellow light appeared at the door, and Filch walked in with a lantern. He looked carefully at the classroom, but did not find any students who violated the rules. "Let's go, dear. There is nothing unusual here." Mrs. Norris let out a meow unwillingly, and took a few steps towards the position of the invisibility cloak. At this moment, the three of them held their breath tacitly, and stepped back at the same time. Filch frowned slightly, and looked in front of Mrs. Norris. "There is no one." "Maybe you made a mistake." When they left, the three of them breathed a sigh of relief. Aaron emerges from the cloak. "I think we can go back now." Should be. Ron nodded resentfully. He was so taken aback just now that he didn't want to stay any longer. Harry was still a little reluctant. He stroked the mirror of Eriste slowly. "I think I can look at it for a while. Filch probably won't be back in a short time." "Ha!" Aaron smiled speechlessly. Harry Potter, you are really smart, and you are so confident in violating school rules. Have you ever wondered what if Filch suddenly turned back?" "That's right, Harry, being caught by Filch is not a good thing. We've already made Percy angry once, and if we do get caught this time, we'll be ashamed to see him." "But..." "No, but..." Aaron interrupted him. "This mirror is here, and I won't run long. If you want to see it, you can come anytime later, but now we have to go back." Ron nodded to Harry in a hurry, and whether he wanted to or not, he directly pulled him towards the door. Chapter 43 Nicole Flamel, maker of the Sorcerer's Stone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Mirror of Eriste is a magic item, which deeply attracted Harry Potter and made him spend most of his time and energy on useless fantasies. For several days, Harry would go to that classroom whenever he was free, and then sit alone in front of the mirror, staring at his parents in a daze. Although he knew it was false content, he still enjoyed it, until the third night, Dumbledore appeared in that classroom. "You're here again, Harry." Dumbledore stood at the window, his shadow cast on the wall next to Harry under the moonlight. Seeing the sudden appearance of a figure, Harry was startled, turned around immediately, and then stood obediently beside the mirror, silent and silent. "It seems to me that you, like many others, have found the Mirror of Eriste to be of great delight. I'm sure you know its magic by now." Dumbledore walked up to Harry Potter slowly. "Let me give you a hint. What the happiest person in the world sees when he looks in this mirror is himself, his own appearance." "I know," Harry said. "Just like this sentence on the mirror, what it shows us is the most urgent and strongest desire hidden deep in our hearts." Hearing this, Dumbledore smiled gratifiedly. "Harry, you are a little smarter than I thought." Harry Potter scratched his head in embarrassment. "Actually, I didn't find this out, it was..." Harry stopped in the middle of his speech, and he remembered that Aaron followed him secretly. This was a violation of school rules, and it would be bad for Dumbledore to know. "Oh. It seems that there are other people besides you who have seen this mirror, Harry, can you tell me who it is? Seeing the kind smile on Dumbledore's face, Harry breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that the matter might not be that serious, but just in case, he still said, then you have to promise me that you won't tell it, and you won't tell me anything about it. He makes any punishment. Of course, I fully understand your desire to take care of your friend, and that's perfectly fine. To be honest, it's not a big deal to sneak over to look in the mirror in the middle of the night, not to mention that you haven't been caught by Filch, which means you didn't do anything. Harry froze for a moment, unable to believe that such words came from the headmaster's mouth. What? Surprised? I used to be a Gryffindor too, and breaking school rules was commonplace, but for your own sake, you should refrain from doing such things in the future. If I get caught, I can only do business. At most, I will help the students to intercede. Of course, this depends on the situation. Okay. Harry felt much relieved. Headmaster, I'll tell you, the secret of this mirror was first discovered by Aaron. Aaron? Aaron Gaius? Dumbledore's expression froze for a moment, and then returned to normal the next moment. I knew him, he was impeccable on the Quidditch pitch. Yes, that's him, and Professor, he saw only himself in front of this mirror. Really? It seems that I will pay more attention to this excellent little wizard in the future. Dumbledore said with a smile. At this time, Aaron, who was in the Slytherin dormitory, sneezed violently, opened his eyes from a deep sleep, and shivered involuntarily. Why does it feel like someone is staring at you? Aaron said to himself, without paying much attention, and continued to sleep after tightening the quilt. Harry, you must remember that this mirror does not give us knowledge and truth. People waste their time in front of it, even go crazy. There was a hint of threat in Dumbledore's words, which made Harry turn his head guiltily. So, take this mirror away tomorrow. I must advise you, don't bother looking for it in the future, it won't do you any good if you dwell on your dreams and forget about life. Harry nodded silently, then put on the invisibility cloak and left the classroom. Dumbledore slowly closed the door and looked at himself in the mirror of Eriste, a radiant old man holding a pair of thick woolen socks in his hand. Aaron Gaius? A Slytherin, or a member of the Gaius family, is a bit difficult to handle. I hope it doesn't affect my plans, otherwise, just a few adjustments. A wise light flashed in Dumbledore's eyes, then he slightly raised his hand and put away the mirror of Eriste. At the end of the holiday, the snow covering Hogwarts gradually melted away, and students of all grades returned to this castle to start their respective study careers. Library. Aaron opened the dragon illustrated book sent by Jeans, and introduced Abe to his kind one by one with Abe in his arms. Draco on the opposite side was also holding a book to read, but his two servants were a little stretched, and fell asleep directly on the table. Aaron, I really don't understand why you show Abe books about dragons, it's better to read about cats. As soon as the words fell, Abe jumped on the table and grinned at Draco. If it wasn't because there were so many people here, it would definitely fly up and slap him twice with its wings, to let him know what the dignity of a dragon is. Seeing Abe like this, Draco also felt a little embarrassed, and smiled embarrassingly. At this time, Hermione passed behind Draco with a thick old book in her arms. When she saw Aaron, she paused. Well, Aaron, can you come here for a while? I have something to ask you. Oh. Aaron carried Abe, and then closed the dragon illustrated book. Draco, don't wait for me for a while. Understood. Hermione led Aaron to an empty table, then patted the book in her hand on the table, hesitated for a moment and said, I found Nicole Flamel. Wow. Aaron raised his eyebrows and smiled. This is really great news. These days, Harry and Ron go to the library every day, but every time they come here in high spirits and come back disappointed. I am worried for them. By the way, you found information about Nicole Flamel in this book? That's right. This is what I plan to do during the Christmas vacation. Hermione turned to Nico Flamel's introduction. Nico Flamel is the only known maker of the Philosopher's Stone. The Sorcerer's Stone is a magical substance with amazing magical powers. It can turn any metal into gold, and it can also make an elixir of life. People who drink it can live forever. the last surviving Philosopher's Stone belongs to the famous alchemist Nicole Flamel, who celebrated his 665th birthday last year. The corner of Aaron's mouth twitched. It's a bit exaggerated to say that the Philosopher's Stone can make people live forever, but I really never thought that he lived for more than 600 years. That's not the point is Nicole Flamel, and the Philosopher's Stone. Hermione was a little tangled. I don't know if I should tell Harry and the others about Nicole Flamel's identity. This may involve such a priceless treasure as the Philosopher's Stone. The water is too deep. Well, I think you'd better tell them. I don't know about the others, but I can be sure that the book in this library that records Nicole Flamel is definitely not the only one in your hand. In other words, sooner or later they will find Nico Flamel. Since it can't be kept secret, it's better to tell them in advance, and it can save a little effort. It seems to be the only way. You didn't find Nicole Flamel because of the Philosopher's Stone, did you? Hermione hesitated for a moment, then nodded. You should be able to guess it too. The Philosopher's Stone is at the school, and someone is trying to figure it out. Yes, the Philosopher's Stone was originally in Gringotts, but is now kept by Professor Dumbledore in a room to the right on the 4th floor, watched over by a three-headed dog. Harry and the others would have preconceived that Snape wanted to steal it. It's normal, after all, in the whole of Hogwarts, only Professor Snape, who is the worst or even hostile to them, fits his guess. There are two things that can be determined at present. First, the people behind the scenes have not yet succeeded. Second, there must not only be a three-headed dog watching the hidden place of the Philosopher's Stone, there must be other defensive forces. That thing is too precious. What if the dog accidentally falls asleep? Aaron, do you want to tell Professor Dumbledore about this? It's better not. Aaron interrupted her immediately. At least now is not the time. Why? Hermione was puzzled. First of all, you don't have any evidence to prove that someone is going to steal the Philosopher's Stone, let alone direct evidence that the person who is going to steal it is Professor Snape. Second, how did you know there was a Philosopher's Stone in the school? This should be considered a secret. Don't tell me you're just guessing. Hermione pursed her lips. Hagrid accidentally slipped the tongue. Beautiful. Aaron shook his head speechlessly. If you tell Dumbledore, Hagrid will be punished. There is no doubt about it. Of course, there is the most important point. Once you tell Dumbledore, you may startle the snake. You must know that the Sorcerer's Stone is protected layer by layer, but if you want to transfer it, the defensive power will be greatly reduced, which will give people an opportunity to take advantage of it. Chapter 44 Hagrid's Curiosity about Abe. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After listening to Aaron's analysis, Hermione fell silent. She knew Aaron was right, but didn't that mean there was nothing they could do? But according to what you say, then we can only wait. You can't say that. You don't have to participate at all, and you can respond to all changes with the same. Noticing Hermione's unfriendly gaze, Aaron shrugged. Okay. No kidding, all you can do now is look for evidence. It is best to confirm who is behind this scene. As long as there is definite evidence, all problems will be solved. Hermione frowned slightly. It's not easy at all. No, actually, it's not as difficult as you think, because you know someone is going to steal the stone, you know where the stone is, and you know who is guarding that place. In other words, you have a certain degree of initiative. Hermione suddenly realized, and the sadness on her face dissipated a bit. Yes, if this person wants to steal the Philosopher's Stone, he must go through the three-headed dog, which means Hagrid. Snapped. Aaron snapped his fingers. It seems you know what to do. Well, as long as Hagrid doesn't reveal the way through the three-headed dog, the Philosopher's Stone is still safe. Once he leaked out, it meant that the people behind the scenes had already started to act. Hermione nodded resolutely. That's right, Hermione, you're smarter than I thought. Hermione smiled shyly, a blush appeared on her face, and after hesitating for a while, she made a decision. Aaron, I want you to help us, can you? Me? Aaron's face had a strange look. It's not impossible, but Harry and the others probably won't agree that someone who is close to Snape like me joins your plan. Then keep it from them for now, said Hermione. You're wiser than all of us, and we'll be able to relax a lot with your help. I beg you. Okay. Aaron shook his head with a wry smile. I'm really not very good at rejecting beautiful girls' requests. He. Hermione smiled shyly, and then picked up the book. Then I'll go to Harry and the others first. They have been looking for Nicole Flamel for so long, and now they should let them get their wish. Wait. Aaron suddenly stopped her. I still think I should tell you some guesses. Since someone wants to get the idea of the Sorcerer's Stone, he must be an insider, which is an important clue. In other words, the other party is not an ordinary student, understand? Hermione was stunned for a moment. Her pretty face became a little heavy. You mean there is an inside thief? I didn't say that, but it's a possibility. So besides Hagrid and Dumbledore, it's best not to trust anyone, especially the professors of the academy. If it happened to hit the muzzle of the gun, it would be a sad reminder. Got it, said Hermione, picking up her book and walking down the aisle. This can be regarded as a reminder to them. Aaron stroked Abe in his arms, then put the dragon illustration book on the table, and continued to teach it to identify its own kind. When he turned to the Norwegian Ridgeback, he suddenly noticed a shadow on the desk. Looking up, the giant Hagrid was looking at them with a smile, his bushy beard trembling. Hagrid, it's really strange that you should show up in the library. I guess you are looking for books about pets. Is that cutie in the Forbidden Forest getting naughty again? How is it possible? They are all very cute. Then what are you doing in the library? I'm just looking around, Hagrid said hesitantly, but Aaron was keenly aware that his gaze was on his dragon illustrated book from time to time. Do you want this illustrated book? Aaron asked meaningfully. How come? Hagrid sneered. Okay. I really want to see it. The things recorded in your book are very detailed, such as habits, diet, hatching guide, etc., which are more detailed than any other book in the library. So, can you? This. Before Aaron could speak, Abe jumped directly onto the illustrated book, pressed his white paws on it, and shook his head vigorously. This, I'm afraid it won't work. As you can see, our Abe is still very possessive. It doesn't agree to give it to you, and I can't help it. Okay. Hagrid nodded regretfully. Then when can you finish watching it? As far as I know, there is also a time limit for borrowing books in the library. If you read it, be sure to let me know as soon as possible, or I'll go say hello to Mrs. Pants now, and ask her to leave me the book when you're done. Hearing this, Abe, who had only expressed displeasure before, began to grit his teeth. He closed the illustrated book angrily, and the whole dragon squatted on it. Hagrid. Aaron, I can see it is reluctant, but this is the property of the school after all. Wow. Abe let out a moan that didn't belong to a cat angrily. The voice was very low, but both Hagrid and Aaron, who were very close, heard it. This is. Hagrid's eyes lit up, staring at the tightly wrapped, white cat, in front of him. His eyes were full of infinite interest. Damn. Exposed. Aaron cursed secretly in his heart, and immediately held down Abe's dragon head, then hugged it in his arms, and covered its dragon's mouth so that it could not make any sound. It was very uncomfortable, but Abe also knew that he had exposed his flaws just now, so he had to cooperate with the master honestly. Aaron, this cat of yours seems to be a bit different. Hagrid looked at him meaningfully, and while speaking, his two huge palms moved slowly towards Abe. He moved very slowly, as if he was afraid of scaring the little guy. What do you want to do? Aaron said with an unfriendly expression. Hagrid looked like a human trafficker who abducted children, so he couldn't help being vigilant. Hagrid withdrew his palm resentfully, with an embarrassed yet polite smile on his face. I'm just curious. Yes, curious. Hagrid said, my knowledge of animals is one of the best in the entire wizarding world, but this is the first time I've seen such a special cat. Speaking of this, Hagrid suddenly paused, and looked around cautiously. Aaron, is it possible that Abe is not a cat? I'm pretty sure the meow just now is definitely not something any cat of any breed can make. I don't understand what you're talking about. Abe is just an ordinary white cat, who has been with me since he was born. I understand. Hagrid lowered his voice and said meaningfully, is there such a possibility that Abe looks like a cat in appearance, but in fact is another species? Actually, I mean the rare breeds in the cat category, you know, taking care of this rare breed takes care, and if you need help, I'd be obliged to. I won't bother you with that. Aaron interrupted him. He said it so sweetly, but in fact he was not greedy for my Xinglong's body. Ha! I just said that casually. Hagrid laughed, and then thought of his own business. Aaron, when will you be able to finish reading this illustrated book? I don't know about this book was sent by an uncle of mine and is not the property of the school, so don't think about it. This. Hagrid froze for a moment, he never thought of this. Then can you lend me a few days after you finish reading it? I need it urgently. Hearing this, Aaron looked at the honest giant with playfulness. Since when did you become so interested in dragons? I've always been particularly interested in dragons. Hagrid explained with averted eyes, there are many magical creatures in the Forbidden Forest, but no dragons. To tell you the truth, I've always wanted to raise a dragon, but there were no conditions, and the Ministry of Magic wouldn't allow it. Therefore, I can only have a simple understanding by reading books, and barely satisfy the following wishes. Is that so? I don't know when I can finish it, but I can promise you that I will lend it to you once I finish it. As Aaron said, he hugged Abe tightly subconsciously, then picked up the illustrated book on the table, and left along the corridor. Hagrid squinted his eyes, looked at Aaron's leaving back, and murmured in a low voice, it's definitely not a cat, but what kind of species is it? Or is it a magical creature that has never appeared before? How curious, I have to find a way to borrow it to have a look. Chapter 45 The Blame on Snape. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hermione told Harry and Ron that what Momo was guarding was the Sorcerer's Stone, and both of them were shocked after knowing the effect of the Sorcerer's Stone. It's no wonder Snape wanted to steal it. Ron the old god said, owning that stone is equivalent to having endless wealth. And a long life, Harry added. Hermione rolled her eyes silently in her heart. These two guys are really holding the blame on Professor Snape's back all the time. Ahem. Now we know that what Mau guards is the Sorcerer's Stone, and... Hermione paused slightly when she said this, and someone wants to steal it. Correction, it's none other than Snape, Ron said. We don't have, % proof that it was Professor Snape who wanted to steal it. Almost everyone wants the Philosopher's Stone, right? What more evidence do you need? Ron sneered, he almost wrote his motives on his face. Besides, we saw him hex Harry on the Quidditch field. Doesn't that make sense? Harry also nodded. At present, Snape is the only one who is suspected, and he is making things difficult for him. Who else could it be? Okay. Hermione could only shake her head, pretending to give in, seeing the determined looks of the two people in front of her. Snape wants to steal it, so the first level he has to pass is Momo, and passing a three-headed dog is very dangerous, so we have to pay attention to Hagrid. Once Snape asks Hagrid this question in an indirect way, then. That means he's going to act. Harry's eyes lit up, and he suddenly felt that Hermione was not just a nerd, but also sharp in analyzing problems. That's right. Not only that, that thing is too precious, there must be more than Mau guarding it, and Dumbledore must have set up other checkpoints. And maybe Snape was also involved, otherwise there was no way to explain how he knew about the Sorcerer's Stone. Ron was instantly astonished. I always thought that you could draw inferences from others only during the exams. I didn't expect you to think so much. It would be a pity if you didn't become an Auror after graduation. Hermione's face was a little more embarrassed when she heard this. This was all analyzed by Aaron, and she just explained it in a cat-and-eye manner, but now the credit and the like seem to fall on her head, which makes her a little uncomfortable. Let's not talk about that. All in all, the situation is not as bad as we thought. At least there will be no surprises in the Philosopher's Stone for a short time. That's good. Harry breathed a sigh of relief. Let me tell you about our current plan, and keep an eye on Snape first. Understood. Ron responded immediately, this is easy, he is the one I see the most every day. Hermione rolled her eyes, but nodded. Second, find a way to find out from Hagrid who else is involved in the protection of the Philosopher's Stone. If Snape wants to get it, he will definitely find a way to break other levels. If we figure this out, we can understand his cracking progress. Thirdly, it's still Hagrid. We must always pay attention to whether he has told others about the method of passing Mau. Don't forget there is a fourth point, Hermione reminded, we have to prepare for the exam. Exam? X2, Harry and Ron glanced at each other, and suddenly one head and too big, they are not very good students, the exam is a necessary hurdle in life for them, and it is also the saddest hurdle. It can't be. Hermione. Ron said awkwardly, the holiday is just over now, and the exam is still hundreds of years away from us. Then you have to prepare a review plan. Hermione's tone was undeniable, we've already wasted too much time on Flamel. If you don't make up for the knowledge in the class, you might not pass the final exam. Are you going to fail? Ron seemed to hear a big joke. If it wasn't because this was a library, he would have laughed out loud. Harry also kept holding back his laughter. Hermione, apart from Aaron, you are the least likely to fail at Hogwarts, you know everything and don't need to review at all. I don't need to review. It seems that you have forgotten that Draco and I still have a gamble. If I lose, Aaron will have to pay a favor on behalf of the family. Although my understanding of the magic world is not as good as yours, I also know how important this kind of bet in the name of the family is. Unfortunately, Draco worked very hard during this period, and even Professor McGonagall, who was not interested in Slytherin, praised him, so, do you want to see Draco triumph? Harry and Ron immediately became serious. Malfoy was the person they hated the most, not even Snape. If Hermione's inadvertent defeat made him successful, then they must be very depressed before the start of the second year of school, and if they face Malfoy in the future, they will be at an absolute disadvantage, because the strongest Hermione on their side is lost. Thinking of this, the eyes of both of them were full of seriousness. Hermione, I think what you said is very reasonable. Harry said, study is the most important thing for students, and we cannot neglect it. I think so too. Ron said solemnly, Hermione, she worked so hard to say so much, but in the end she was not as useful as a Malfoy. In this regard, she can only blame herself for making friends carelessly. As a top student, Hermione quickly made a review plan for the two of them, and generously gave them her own notes, and supervised their study very carefully. The teacher also cooperated and gave various homework. Study hard and make progress every day became the norm in their free time, which made the two scumbags miserable. But even in the face of the storm and the sea, they still devoted most of their energy to supervising Snape and Hagrid. A few weeks later, the gamekeeper's cabin, Harry, Ron, and Hermione came here to visit Hagrid as usual, and this is the 8th time they have come to see Hagrid recently. The first time they looked for him, they told him straight to the point that they knew that what Mau was guarding was the Philosopher's Stone, and every time after that they would mention inadvertently. Has anyone asked how to pass the three-headed dog? But every time Hagrid's answer made them feel particularly reliable. No one knows how to pass Mau except me and Dumbledore, and I will never tell anyone else. And Snape didn't show any abnormalities. He always pulled his face every day, and sometimes he was very irritable, but the more he was like this, the more relieved Harry and Ron were, because it meant the Philosopher's Stone was still safe, and Snape hadn't got it yet. This time they planned to ask other questions. Hagrid. Harry hesitated for a moment, then asked, we want to know what other switches guard the Sorcerer's Stone besides Momo. Hagrid's expression became serious in an instant. Why do you care so much about this? Harry, I seriously remind you again that this has nothing to do with you. So that means there are really other mechanisms? Hermione asked, like spells, magic, etc. I can't say that, it's a very important secret. Hagrid frowned. Of course, I don't know either. Hermione pondered for a while. Then do you know who designed those traps? I know that, it's... Hagrid smugly smiled, and then his face became serious again. I almost got tricked by you again, Hermione. It would be very troublesome to say this. But it's not that much trouble. Pleaded Harry. Please, Hagrid, tell us. We all know about the Philosopher's Stone, and it's not far behind. Don't worry about it, Harry. Hagrid pushed Harry onto the chair with a smile. Since I accidentally leaked Flamel, you guys have become more and more lawless. But someone is already trying to steal the Philosopher's Stone, Ron interjected. We're sure it's Snape. Hermione curled her lips, but stopped talking. She wanted to say, not sure, but nothing came out. Snape? Hagrid was taken aback. I know almost all Gryffindors don't like him, but that's not why you doubt him, and Snape was one of the people who designed those traps. There's no way he could have stolen it. It's worse. Harry said grimly, it's much easier for him to steal, Hagrid. He really doesn't know how to get through Momo. I've said it more than a dozen times, and no one knows except me and Dumbledore. Hagrid said impatiently. Hagrid, you should tell us. Hermione pointed to Ron and Harry. You don't think they will give up so easily? Hagrid looked at the two of them, saw their eyes were full of determination, and sighed helplessly, okay. But I have a small condition. Aaron's pet cat, Abe, you can borrow it for me. Chapter 46 How to Abduct a Cat. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What? Hermione immediately stood up and looked at the thick-eyed Hagrid angrily. This is absolutely not allowed. I don't agree, and Hagrid, how could you think like that? Let's steal the cat. Thank you for thinking it out. Hush. Hagrid made a silent gesture, and looked at the three of them in embarrassment. I didn't say stealing, but borrowing the cat. Impossible. Hermione said speechlessly, Hagrid, I don't think you know that Aaron treats Abe like a baby. He takes Abe with him in class, when he eats, when he sleeps, and he never leaves him. Hagrid nodded. I've also secretly inquired about it, so I'm asking you. But. Harry was very puzzled. What do you want a cat for? There are so many cats in the school, can't we just change one? Ha ha ha. Hagrid laughed triumphantly. You don't understand. I have a special intuition about animals. I noticed when you guys first came to Hogwarts that the cat wasn't easy. No matter how simple it is, it's just a cat. Ron said. No, it's too small, the pattern is too small, I even suspect that it's not a cat. Hagrid said very firmly, you guys have been in contact with Abe more than I do, so you should be able to feel the little guy's IQ more directly. Not unusually high. It's not an ordinary gluttony. Ron murmured. Greedy. Hagrid became interested instantly. What does it usually eat? Eat everything, candy, biscuits, cakes, puddings, chocolate, potatoes, the most is chicken legs. 5 times out of 10, it was holding the drumstick and gnawing on it. Ron was startled when he said this, and wailed in disbelief, my God, my life is actually worse than that of a cat. Harry also patted Ron on the shoulder with some empathy. One of them was dependent on others, and the other was from a poor family. Compared with Abe, the cat, life was simply difficult. Look, you can tell that Abe is special just from his diet. Do ordinary cats have such a good appetite? Hagrid said. This shows that Aaron attaches great importance to Abe. Hermione shook her head and said, Hagrid, I advise you not to think about it. I didn't even think about it. Anyone who knows me knows that I never abuse animals, and I sincerely regard them as friends. I'm just curious and want to take a closer look. If you don't believe me, you can watch from the sidelines. Harry shook his head with a wry smile. Hagrid, it's not that we don't trust you, it's just that it's just too. It's embarrassing, said Ron. Yes, it's too embarrassing. The loss of face is secondary. Hermione's face turned ugly. What's more important is that it will make Aaron's favorability towards us plummet. That's right. Harry was a little puzzled. Hagrid, why don't you borrow it yourself? If I could borrow it, I wouldn't look for you. Hagrid said helplessly. Since I showed interest in Abe in the library last time, he has been very wary of me. That's even worse, so if Abe loses it, you will be the first thing Aaron thinks of, Hermione said. That's why I let you borrow it. I've inquired, except for a few substitute professors at Hogwarts, that is, Draco has the best relationship with him, but it is impossible for him to help me with Sterling, and he will even inform Aaron, so I thought of you. The 3 of you can still talk to him in Gryffindor. Hagrid said with a smile. A few seconds later, he found that the 3 of them were a little silent, and sighed slightly. It doesn't matter if you don't want to help me, there will be opportunities in the future, but those who participated in the design of those institutions. Wait, Hagrid. Harry pondered and made a decision. We can help with this. Harry. Hermione interrupted him, shaking her head at him with an ugly face. Hermione, I know what I'm talking about. But the importance of the Philosopher's Stone and a pet cat is clear at a glance. I agree with Harry's decision, too, said Ron. We're borrowing, not stealing. What's more, we supervised Hagrid throughout the whole process, and guaranteed that Abe would not suffer any grievances and injuries, and we would return it to him within a few hours at most. It shouldn't matter, right? Hearing this, Hermione was a little angry, her chest rising and falling. Is that alone? No matter how good the reason is, it cannot conceal the essence of deception. You will regret it. I am not involved in this matter, you can toss it yourself. After Hermione finished speaking, she walked out of Hagrid's cabin angrily, leaving the three of them looking at each other inside. After she came out, she was a little hesitant to tell Aaron about it, but she gave up after thinking about it carefully, because Harry and Ron couldn't succeed, and if she told Aaron, then Harry and the others would know that it was her who leaked the secret. In the hut, Harry was also a little embarrassed. Hagrid, we will try our best to help you borrow Abe, but please tell us who participated in the design of the Sorcerer's Stone mechanism after you are done. This is very important to us. Of course. Hagrid nodded, but this is also a secret. I can tell you, but can't you tell others to understand? If you can't do that, I won't say anything even if you bring Abe to me. Harry and Ron looked at each other and laughed at the same time. Hagrid was still the same Hagrid, and his principles were still so strong. That's good too. It's definitely not that easy for Snape to get the way through Mau Mau from him. The next day, the auditorium. Aaron took Abe here for lunch. Harry and Ron glanced at each other and started to act. After a while, the two sat opposite Aaron familiarly. In addition to their favorite food, they both put a chicken leg on their dinner plates. After careful consideration, it was definitely impossible to borrow directly, and their relationship with Aaron was not that strong yet. Then you can only save the country with curves. What good idea is there to lure a cat? Very simple, 4 words, do what you like. Don't you just like to eat chicken legs? Then tempt me with chicken legs. In short, all food in Hogwarts is free, and there is no cost to them, as long as you make Abe happy, and then take advantage of the situation and propose to take care of it for a long time. Aaron should not refuse, and the possibility of success is still very high. Sure enough, they just sat here without saying anything. The white cat opposite was already drooling, looking at their dinner plate eagerly. You're worthless, you can't walk when you see something delicious. Aaron held his forehead speechlessly, and then tapped Abe's faucet to bring him out of a dazed state. It's okay. Harry smiled, and then very friendly pushed the chicken legs on his plate to Abe. I saw Abe staring straight at the chicken leg that was close at hand for several seconds, but he resisted the desire to feast on it, and even wiped its saliva with his paw. After that, it looked at Aaron with its big watery eyes, then stretched out its white paw and pointed at the chicken leg, expressing its own meaning. Benlong wants to eat it. These operations really made Harry and Ron feel incredible, and they also understood why Hagrid was interested in this cat. This is simply not something cats can do. Are all pets so self-disciplined now? Ron said in amazement, suddenly thinking of his pet mouse, Scabbers, and couldn't help feeling sad. Look at other people's cats, and then look at your own mouse. One is well-dressed, cute, and very self-disciplined, the other is sloppy, has a negative appearance, and is lazy all day long. There is no comparison. What self-discipline? This guy just wants to add food because his diet has been arranged. Aaron shook his head, then patted it on the head, and said helplessly, only this time, not next time. Abe nodded quickly, then picked up the chicken leg and gnawed wildly. Aaron, your cat is so smart. Harry said with emotion, and it seems to listen to you very much. That's right, Abe has been with me since he was born, and I raised him so white and fat. Aaron said proudly, raising the dragon for a few months still feels quite fulfilling. It's just that it is still a little bit short of evolution now, and it needs to be spawned with magic points later, so that it can quickly awaken the second talent skill. Oh. That's right. Ron also passed over the chicken legs on the dinner plate, exchanged glances with Harry, and then tentatively stretched out his right hand, but when his fingers were still a palm away from Abe suddenly stopped eating, turned around and bared his teeth at Ron, causing him to withdraw his hand immediately in fright. "Aaron, does it have such a temper?" Ron couldn't hold back. "I just gave it a chicken leg, and it won't work even if you touch it." Forehead, "Sorry, but it's generally not allowed for boys to touch it without my permission, besides my family, only Draco and Hermione held it at school." Aaron explained. Harry and Ron looked at each other, feeling that the difficulty of abducting the cat had suddenly risen several levels. Chapter 47 The Tactical Upgrade of the Two Cat Dealers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gryffindor Common Room. Harry and Ron sat at a table, frowning. "What should I do?" Ron asked dejectedly. "Originally, I planned to deal with Abe first. As long as I got its favor and then asked Aaron's consent, I would definitely get twice the result with half the effort, but a few days passed, and Abe had eaten nearly 20 chicken legs, and he still didn't catch a cold with them. This made the two who were already guilty even more guilty. To this day, Aaron can't stand it anymore, because the two of them were too kind to Abe, and they both fed him half a catty. When Aaron brought up the slightly fat white cat and asked them not to continue feeding them, the two of them were dazed, and they were so embarrassed that they could pick out a Hogwarts with their feet. How do I know? Harry was also speechless. The original plan was cancelled for the time being. That cat is cute, but it is a bottomless pit. When he was fully fed, Snape probably ran away with the Philosopher's Stone. Hey! Ron leaned on the sofa and thought about it. It's definitely not good to borrow a corner. Abe is not so easy to turn, and Aaron may not lend it to us. Harry froze for a moment, looked around, and after confirming that there was no one there, he said in a low voice, "Then you mean, let's steal it?" "It's not appropriate, is it? Although Aaron is a Slytherin, he is also our friend." "Harry, I know it's not kind to do this, but do you have a better way? Think about Snape. You don't want him to get the Philosopher's Stone. Besides, we didn't really want to hurt Abe, but we just borrowed an hour, and treated it as our reward for treating him to eat chicken legs for 3 days." Harry was a little moved, but also a little worried. But what if it is discovered? "No chance." Ron said confidently. "Don't forget, you still have an invisibility cloak. It is impossible for Aaron to take Abe with him all the time. For example, they must be separated when going to the toilet. At that time, as long as we were careful, stealing a cat was easy." Hearing this, the corners of Harry's mouth twitched. This method sounded a bit clumsy, and if this is discovered, the boat of friendship between them and Aaron will capsize, and the risk is too great to bear. "No, we can't do that, it's too much. It's simply a human trafficker, no, a cat trafficker." This. Ron reacted, with an awkward but polite smile on his face. "Don't talk nonsense, I'm just giving you an idea. If you have a good solution, you can bring it up." Harry opened his mouth, hesitant to speak, but no words came out, because he also thinks this bad idea is the only one right now. What if Aaron finds out that the cat is missing? Ha ha ha. Ron laughed. "Harry, Abe is a cat, okay? It should be normal for it to wander around while the owner is away, as long as it doesn't disappear for too long. After we showed it to Hagrid, we released it directly, and it would automatically run to Aaron's side. Cats can't speak, everything is very natural, there will be no flaws." "Wait." Harry sat up suddenly. "I have a solution." "What way?" Ron was a little curious. "Didn't you just say it was a cat? What will the cat do? Catch the mouse? If we let Scabbers appear in front of Aaron while he was going to the bathroom, and then lead him to Hagrid's cabin, wouldn't it work?" "No." Ron slapped the table angrily. "I absolutely disagree. There is no worse idea than this. Harry, you also know that cats can catch mice, but cats can also eat mice. What if Scabbers doesn't escape? It has been with me for a long time, and I can't bear to let it do such a dangerous thing." "Sorry." Harry lowered his head in shame. "Does that mean we can only steal?" "That's right, but we need a rigorous plan." Ron folded his hands on his chest with a serious expression on his face. "After all, Abe is alive. If he is caught suddenly, he will definitely resist violently. It's not good to make noise. Harry nodded. I think Hagrid will have a good idea. The next day they were at the gamekeeper's cottage. After explaining his intention to Hagrid, the simple and honest giant had a troubled expression on his face. Isn't your idea a little unreliable? Let's forget it. Then tell us who was involved in the mechanism design of the Sorcerer's Stone. Harry said immediately. This, of course not. Hagrid was even harder, his bushy beard huddled together. It would definitely not work to tell them directly. From the bottom of his heart, he didn't want Harry and the others to continue getting involved. It would be a day if it could be delayed, but he was not willing to do research on novel species. His intuition told him that Aaron's pets were definitely not simple, and they were not even inferior to some magical creatures. That's enough. Harry said helplessly. But why are you looking for me? I can't help you. No, Hagrid, you're the only one in all of Hogwarts who can help. No one knows animals better than you. You must have something that can put Abe to sleep. Hush. Hagrid looked around guiltily. Who told you? Harry and Ron smiled at each other. It seems that you really have. Hagrid gave the two of them a blank look, and rummaged through a box in the corner. About half a minute later, he took out a small purple bottle. A special sleeping pill. This thing is only useful for pets, not for people, but if it is a magical animal, the effect may not be so great. The more powerful the magical animal, the lower the effectiveness. For example, for magical animals like dragons and phoenixes, as long as they are not cubs, the sleeping potion is the same as plain water. Enough is enough. What we want to bring down is a cat, not a dragon. Ron said with a smile, but how did he know that what they were going to bring down was a dragon? Okay. I can give you things, but you have to pay attention to the amount. Hagrid reminded, for Abe's build, 1 drop is enough for him to sleep for 2 hours, moreover, you have to return this bottle of medicine to me after you use it up. Got it. Harry took the medicine bottle and pulled Ron out of Hagrid's cabin. The two returned to the common room non-stop and began to discuss the battle plan. Looking at the purple vial on the table, they became more and more excited as they talked. Although I know it's not kind to do this, but they are 11-year-old children after all, and this kind of interesting and exciting thing has an inexplicable attraction to them. What are you two doing? Why are you so happy? Hermione walked over holding a stack of review materials. Ron swiftly put away the sleeping pills on the table. It's nothing, we're just discussing the Quidditch match. Really? Hermione asked suspiciously. Of course it's true, otherwise what do you think we'd be happy about? Said Harry, unless Malfoy fell out of the toilet, or Snape got fired. Hermione rolled her eyes. I won't talk about Snape, but Draco hasn't offended you recently, has he? But he offended us when he started school. Ron said angrily, that domineering attitude is exactly the same as his father Lucius Malfoy. Harry nodded approvingly. He didn't like Malfoy's condescending attitude. It's up to you. Hermione patted the information in her hand on the table. This is for you. As long as you memorize these final exams, you will be fine. Hermione. Ron's eyes twitched. Are you sure this is for the final exam? Our textbooks should not be so high stacked together. What's your attitude? These are my study notes. Many people asked me for them, but I didn't give them. No. But that's too much. Harry smiled wryly. The two of them had no academic talent, so they would be satisfied as long as they could pass the exam. Go. Hermione also knew that it was unrealistic to ask them to read. You don't need to memorize them all, but at least you have to read them a few times, lest you don't know what to write in the exam. Harry and Ron looked at each other, but they were speechless. No matter how upset the scumbags were, they should bow their heads when facing the tyrants. By the way, did Hagrid let go? No. Harry shook his head. He still has the same conditions. What about Abe? At this time, the two scumbags showed a tacit understanding, and shook their heads at the same time, with a little bitterness on their faces. Although the acting skills are not in place, it is full of confusion. Oh. Harry sighed dejectedly. Ron also said in cooperation. That cat didn't give us a chance. Chapter 48 Ben Long is also educated. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hermione frowned. She always felt that the two people in front of her were fooling her, but there was no evidence. Let me give you a small suggestion. Don't have any thoughts that you shouldn't have. If you really can't help it, maybe you can talk to Aaron openly and honestly. Then it's better to just give up. Harry shook his head. You also know that the probability of Aaron's agreement is no more than 1 in 10,000. And it will definitely scare the snake, and it will be even more difficult for us to steal, ahem, and borrow. Ron said, in short, you can leave this matter alone, and Harry and I will find a way to deal with it. Okay. Hermione patted the review materials, but be careful not to forget the business. Harry and Ron looked at the stack of review materials, nodded resignedly, and watched Hermione leave. After she left, Ron took out the purple vial, get the props ready, take a rest for a day, and look for an opportunity to act tomorrow. After class the next day, the two followed Aaron far away, looking at the neatly dressed, lively white cat following him, with a look of helplessness in their eyes. They follow from the classroom to the playground, to the auditorium, and then to the library. However, after entering the library, the two were at a loss because Aaron took out an approval slip, and with Mrs. Pants's permission, they entered the restricted area openly. Hey! This is troublesome. Ron said regretfully. In a few hours, he probably won't be able to get out. Don't sigh, opportunities are reserved for those who are prepared. We have all followed here, and it is not a few hours behind. That's all. The two looked at each other, then sat on an empty table, took out the notes of the top student Hermione, and began the tormenting review. I thought I could watch a little bit, but after more than 10 minutes of flipping through, the two of them yawned. I really suspect that Hermione cast a sleeping curse on this. Ron smiled wryly. It wasn't that he didn't want to work hard, it's just that there were too many words on these notes, and it made people drowsy just looking at them. Hold on. Harry said in a daze, we can't lose to Malfoy no matter what. Ron, are you serious about telling the truth with your eyes closed? Almost 2 hours later, Aaron came out of the restricted area with a book in his arms. Ron! Ron! Harry hurriedly patted Ron's head to wake him up. What's wrong? Ron opened his eyes in a daze. He's out. What? Ron regained his energy in an instant, and Harry quickly put away the information on the table and followed Aaron lightly, but as soon as they left the library, they were a little embarrassed, because Aaron was standing at the door, looking at them with a smile. I wonder if you two can tell me, what are you and I doing for a day? Ron was slightly taken aback. Who followed you? Is there any evidence? It's true that there is no such thing, but I don't believe that your arrangements are exactly the same as mine. It's just a coincidence. Harry's eyes dodged, but his tone was extremely firm. We just happened to go to the playground to watch Quidditch, then went to have dinner, and finally read a book in the library. I believe many students are like this. Really? Aaron didn't believe the nonsense of these two people. It is true that many students had such plans, but these two people followed him so often that no one would believe them if they were not following him, but for a while, he couldn't figure out what their purpose of following him was. Of course it is. Ron said confidently. Okay. I can pretend to believe you. I wonder where you two want to go next. If there is any, please let me know. I promise to stagger with the two, so that we don't feel uncomfortable. Harry, Ron, the two knew that if they didn't tell the reason, they might not be able to get along. Now that he has already alarmed the snake, he can only choose to hide the truth. Aaron, there is something we really want to ask you for help. Harry said hesitantly. Oh. Aaron raised his eyebrows. Then just tell me, it's up to me to help, there's no need to play tracking. By the way, your methods of tracking are very poor, very poor. Ha! Harry sneered, and then took out the notes Hermione gave. It's like this, in order to prepare for the final exam, Hermione arranged devil training for us. She wants us to memorize all these knowledge points. Here are the notes you can take a look at. Aaron took the notebook dubiously, flipped through it briefly, there is nothing wrong with it. The records are very detailed, and there are almost no flaws to be found. To be honest, you are really lucky to have a friend like Hermione, so, what do you want me to do? We want you to tell Hermione not to push us too hard, said Harry, poking Ron's arm. Ron reacted immediately. We both tried it just now, but after watching it for more than 10 minutes, we almost fell asleep. You followed me for a day just because of this? Aaron looked at the two, speechless in his heart. He really wondered if the two guys' brains were squeezed by the door. Seeing that he was successfully fooled, Harry was delighted. You know Hermione's temper, if we make this request, she will probably be unhappy, and she is doing it for our own good, so it is even more difficult for us to make this request, but you are different. You have the best relationship with her at Hogwarts. He will definitely listen to your words. You two, really, are full. Aaron shook his head. Sorry, I can't help you with this kind of thing should not be brought up by me, otherwise the scene will be even more embarrassing. With Hermione's IQ, it's easy to guess that the two of you specifically asked me to intercede with her. If you really feel suffering, go and explain it to her yourself. Sometimes it's better to be honest. After speaking, Aaron turned and left. X2, both of them breathed a sigh of relief, but they couldn't help feeling a little more depressed. Oh. It's difficult now. Harry smiled wryly. Although we've gotten past it, we can't follow it up, otherwise he will definitely find some problems. Yes. We can't go to the Slytherin lounge to block him. I don't know the password of Slytherin either. Just think of another way. Bathroom, under the cloak, Harry and Ron were squatting anxiously at the door. Sit back and wait. This is the stupidest way they came up with after thinking all night, but it is the safest method, but it takes a little longer. From the end of get out of class to the present, there are at least dozens of people who go to the toilet, but their goals have not appeared for a long time. Harry, why don't we go back? If I stay any longer, I will feel like a pervert. Wait a little longer. We've all been waiting for so long, and Aaron is definitely coming. But we've all been waiting for 3 hours. The longer it takes to wait for him, the more likely it is. It might be smaller. Ron curled his lips, but he waited with Harry after all. Perhaps the patience of the two played a role, and Aaron came over a few minutes later. Seeing the white cat following him, both of them were very excited, wishing to go up and catch it immediately. After a while, Aaron closed the door and left Abe on the sink, guarding outside like a sentinel. Are things ready? Ready. Ron immediately took out a lunchbox, which contained 2 chicken legs. Okay, success or failure is here. The two walked over carefully, then opened the box, and gently placed it on the ground. Under the invisibility cloak, the two kept fanning their robes, trying to transmit the aroma of chicken legs inside as much as possible. Abe, who was squatting on the sink and looking in the mirror, smelled the smell, immediately pricked up his ears, and raised the hat on his head by 2 centimeters. It looked around for a while, and walked to the door under the expectant eyes of the two, and then found the neatly arranged lunchboxes. Abe's eyes widened in an instant, and became particularly agile, because he saw his favorite food. Eat, eat, eat. The two thought excitedly. They had been preparing for this moment for several days, but Abe's next performance made them feel astonished, bewildered, and speechless. I saw Abe approaching the lunchbox and sniffing carefully, then turned his head and looked around, focusing on the position of the invisibility cloak. After confirming that there was no one there was a trace of doubt in its smart eyes. A few seconds later, the white cat resisted the desire to eat, wiped the drool from the corner of its mouth, stretched out 2 paws to cover the lunchbox, and then walked into the bathroom with 3 steps and 3 turns. You can't eat food that falls on the ground, let alone food that looks like someone else's. This is the master's instruction, and Ben Long is also educated. Chapter 49. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What? Ron's eyes widened, and he said in disbelief, how could this be? Hagrid's suspicion of the cat is not without reason, but there should be a limit to self-discipline. Harry said with emotion, let's not care about that much, just pack your things and leave quickly. Withdrawal. Then we have waited so long for nothing. Ron was a little unwilling. They had worked hard for several days, and the plan was so perfect that no one could fault it, but the result was unacceptable. If you don't withdraw, you can't. Aaron will come out if you wait any longer. What do you think he will think when he sees these 2 drumsticks? This. Ron was about to say something, but the sound of running water came from the bathroom. Knowing that he couldn't wait any longer, Harry put away the lunchbox decisively, and then covered Ron's mouth. When Aaron walked past the door, the 2 put away their invisibility cloaks and looked at each other with helplessness in their eyes. "This cat is absolutely fine," Ron said indignantly. "Oh." Harry sighed. "If Hagrid hadn't let go, I would have given up." "No, Harry, I'm not willing to suffer such a big loss on a cat. Are you willing?" "Of course not." Reconciled. "Then go back and discuss the battle plan again. I don't believe that the 2 of us can't handle a cat with our wits." Harry thought for a moment, then nodded emphatically. Back in the Gryffindor common room, the 2 returned to their frowning looks. "Food temptation is probably out of the question," Ron said. "Abe is very cautious and will not eat food from strangers, let alone food placed in the corner." "No, that's not right." Harry expressed a different opinion. "It's not because of the food, you saw it like that just now. Its saliva could flow from the door to the sink, but it restrained its desire for food." "Then what do you mean?" "It's a human." Harry said affirmatively. "Only when Aaron is around can he dare to eat with confidence." "That's over." Ron smiled wryly. "If Aaron was here, even if Abe fell asleep, they might not be able to take him away. They couldn't tie him and the cat together. That nature has completely changed, and they don't have the courage. Even if they have the guts, they don't have the ability. Aaron's academic performance is recognized by all the professors, and he seems to have fought trolls with Snape. In the face of this kind of record, even if he and Harry are packed together, they may not be opponents." "It's not impossible," Harry said hesitantly. "Aaron said that there are 2 people in school who can lower Abe's vigilance. One is Draco, and the other is Hermione." Ron was surprised. His face became strange. "You don't mean her?" "Yes." "Impossible, Harry. Don't you forget that she objected to our attack on Abe, not to mention asking her for help in colluding with us. It's a bit difficult, but it's the only reliable method right now. To complete Hagrid's mission, we have 4 breakthroughs. One is Aaron. He will not hand over pets to Hagrid for inspection. The success rate is 0%, they can be ruled out directly. The other is Abe himself. We have also tried these few days and contributed a lot, but we are not familiar with it. The success rate is calculated as %. The third is Malfoy, who can hold Abe and feed him like Aaron. This must be ruled out decisively." Ron said disdainfully. "Don't worry about it, his success rate is definitely negative. So, it's just Hermione left. She is Aaron's good friend, and she can hold Abe without any hindrance. What's more, she knows a lot about Philosopher's Stone, Momo, Snape and so on, as long as we move with emotion and understand with reason. Don't forget to lower your face," Ron added helplessly. "Yes, keep your face down." The corner of Harry's mouth twitched, with a bit of bitterness on his face. Both of them knew that as long as they were willing to put down their face and ask Hermione for help, she would definitely not turn a blind eye, but this was the most difficult step for them, and it hurt their self-esteem a bit. "I have to go to save face. This is the last chance. Only by knowing who was involved in the design of those mechanisms can we grasp the progress of Snape's operations." "Okay. If you lose face, you can lose face." Ron nodded helplessly, comforting himself and said, "As long as we don't let Snape get his way, we've made great contributions to Hogwarts. Maybe at the end of the semester, you can add points and get the Academy Cup." The 2 made a decision, immediately took out the review materials given by Hermione, and read it with torment. "Since you are asking for someone, you must first put on the posture of asking for someone." If Hermione saw them working so hard and not wasting her efforts, she would listen to them no matter what. However, the ideal is full and the reality is very skinny. The 2 wanted to show off, but they didn't expect Hermione to return to the common room until the curfew at night. At this time, the eyelids of the 2 of them had already started to fight, but they still showed a look of forgetting to eat and sleep. It was hard enough, but it looked a little funny. You're almost ready," Hermione said with a twitching corner of her mouth. "Study is a combination of work and rest. You should go to bed and sleep now." Hearing Hermione's voice, the two also came back to their senses, and their confused eyes were instantly lit up. "Hermione, you're finally back," Ron said, almost crying in surprise. "We haven't seen each other for a long time. As for making such a fuss." "No." Harry put on his glasses. "How do you say that saying, 'One day is like 3 autumns'? I understand it today. You guys really amaze me. But I hope you all go back to sleep quickly, your mental state is not suitable for lying on this table at all. Hermione, we have something to discuss with you," Harry said hesitantly. "Is it important?" It can be said to be important or not important." "Then go back to sleep first," Hermione said as she packed up the review materials on the table. "Tomorrow is Sunday, so you can talk about things slowly." Harry and Ron didn't say anything, and walked towards the boys' dormitory in a daze. After all, dealing with sleep gods is quite a test. The next day, Harry and Ron didn't play any tricks anymore, and directly explained their cat luring plan 3.0 to Hermione. After hearing this, Hermione looked in disbelief. "In other words, you failed twice. And now I want to cooperate with you to steal Abe." "You can say that." Like a kid who got caught for making a mistake, Harry didn't dare to raise his head. "Heh." Hermione rolled her eyes. "It's fine if I don't report on you, but now you still want me to do such a bad thing. I really don't understand what you two think." "Hermione, we know it's difficult for you, but if it weren't for us, we really have no choice but to come back to you. It took us a long time to come up with such a reliable method. As long as you are willing to help, there is at least a 70% success rate. Be taller, Harry, at least 80% success rate." "Sorry, I refuse," Hermione said righteously. "I can help with other things, but I really can't do anything about it. If I do, then I will have no face to see him in the future. It's enough not to be discovered." Ron said, "Our plan is perfect, at most an hour, just to satisfy Hagrid's curiosity." No. Hermione waved her hand immediately. "His curiosity shouldn't be satisfied in this way, and I don't want to be your accomplice." "Yes, you are right," Ron said disdainfully. "It's not because Abe belongs to Aaron. If it were someone else, you probably wouldn't reject it so thoroughly." Hermione opened her mouth, and said with some inconsistency, "It's the same with other people." "Harry, come on. Our 2 Gryffindors combined are no match for 1 Slytherin." "Ron." Harry glared at him fiercely. "What we are going to do now is really not a good thing. But our end goal is good. We worked hard for a month to protect the Philosopher's Stone, but a cat blocked it. Now we begged her for help with shame, but she refused without even thinking about it. Nicole Flamel's information was found out with Hermione's help, but is she acting like a friend should do?" "Ron." Harry couldn't help it. "Hermione's decision has nothing to do with being a friend, but you shouldn't be so aggressive now." "Okay, stop talking," Hermione said reluctantly, shaking her sleeves. "I'll help you this time." "Really?" Harry was overjoyed, feeling that happiness came too suddenly. "Really, but you must ensure that everything is safe. If we are caught, we will be miserable." "Don't worry about this, we can guarantee it," Ron said immediately, patting his chest. "Even if an accident does happen, we will bear it and we won't embarrass you." Chapter 50 Sleeping Pills Became Ecstasy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Hermione agreed to the 2 people, she regretted a little, but since she agreed, she would not regret it. What conditions are needed to abduct Abe? Acquaintances, chicken legs, sleeping pills. Now that the 3 conditions are all ready, Hermione is still a little apprehensive, but Harry and Ron are full of confidence, and both believe that this time it will succeed. By dinner time, students from the 4 colleges gathered in front of the 4 long tables in the auditorium one after another. As usual, Aaron put down his pet cat and enjoyed the food in an orderly manner. On the long table in Gryffindor, Ron and Harry looked at each other, and then gave Hermione a sneaky look. "It's your turn, if you miss this time, you will have to wait for the next time." Hermione hesitated for a moment, but stood up and walked to Aaron. Before she knew how to speak, Aaron asked, "Hermione, what can I do for you?" Isn't the final exam coming soon? I'm a little stressed, so I want to borrow Abe to use it." Hermione said very embarrassedly, "This little guy is very warm and can make people relax." Abe immediately raised his proud dragon head, "As if I wouldn't be happy even if you praised me." However, the inexplicable increase of the hat on its head by 1 centimeter still proved the secret joy in its heart. "Are you under a lot of pressure?" Draco, who was opposite Aaron, couldn't bear it anymore. "Are you kidding me? I'm under a lot of pressure. If my father finds out that I lost to you, he might teach me a lesson. Then you can work harder. As long as your grades are not lower than mine." Hermione said arrogantly. She didn't have such a good temper with Malfoy. Draco's tone faltered. He also knew the gap between him and Hermione, a top student, but if he loses, he won't lose. He can't lose in momentum. "I'll prove it to you. Wait and see," Hermione said, and then looked at Aaron. "Can you lend me Abe for a night?" Aaron was a little hesitant. If he had a cat in his hand, he would definitely borrow it, but what a dragon. Generally speaking, girls don't have much resistance to Abe, but it will be a lot of fun if they notice the wings under Abe's clothes. If it doesn't work, forget it, I won't make things difficult for you," Hermione said with some grievances, but no one noticed the relief hidden under this grievance. "As long as Aaron doesn't agree, it's Harry and Ron's plan to fail, and she doesn't have to kidnap the cat against her will. Actually, it's not impossible," Aaron said, "but you have to promise me to take good care of it, and you must pay attention not to let others touch it, let alone take off its clothes." "Then it sleeps with clothes on at night?" Hermione asked with some doubts. A look of grievance suddenly appeared on Abe's face. Although the clothes on his body were specially made by djinns, they were stretchable and breathable, and could be used as pajamas, but in the past few months, it can only take off its clothes when changing clothes, and it makes long sigh. "That's right." Aaron rubbed Abe's head. "This guy is very afraid of the cold." It was so. "All right, I promise you will take care of it," Hermione said firmly. As for the latter, she couldn't guarantee it. She just hoped that Harry's plan would go smoothly and nothing would happen. "That's good, I'll give it to you after dinner." Hermione nodded and walked towards the Gryffindor table, keeping Aaron from seeing the tangled expression on her face. "You don't really want to borrow her, do you?" Draco asked suspiciously. Aaron usually treats Abe like a treasure, and no one else can even touch her, but now he just borrows it. "I mean what I say." Aaron shrugged. "Besides, it doesn't seem like a big deal. If you want to borrow it, it's not that I can't lend it to you." "Really?" Draco had a touch of excitement on his face, and just about to say something, Abe, who was waiting for the feeding in peace, suddenly gritted his teeth, which made him extremely embarrassed. "That's fine, I'm not a girl, I need cute things to comfort me when I'm stressed, I have my own way of venting," Draco said angrily, and then turned to look at Crabbe and Goyle, who were feasting on the left and right. "You two will go outside with me after dinner." "No problem, boss," Crabbe said, slurring his voice as he ate. As for Gore, he kept nodding his head. It was reasonable to take a walk after eating. "Hey!" Draco sighed. Having such two followers is really speechless. Although they are loyal but their ability is average, they can only reach the middle level. On the other side, Hermione returned to her seat, and as soon as she sat down, she met two questioning eyes. "Don't worry. Aaron has already promised me, but the two of you absolutely have to make sure nothing goes wrong." "That's absolutely fine." Harry emphasized the word absolutely. "We have an invisibility cloak, no one will find out." Seeing that the two of them were full of confidence, Hermione didn't say anything. She just hoped that time would pass faster and this matter would be finished sooner. Every extra second would be a torment for her. After dinner, the people in the auditorium also left one after another. There were only a dozen or so people left from the 4 colleges, and more than half of them were foodies. "Let's go first," Draco said, and then walked out with 2 followers. Aaron nodded, and then looked at Abe solemnly. This is the first time you have stayed at someone else's place, remember to be safe, understand? Abe nodded, then rubbed Aaron's palm, showing reluctance. Okay, I can still trust Hermione, nothing will happen tonight, besides, you will grow up sooner or later, we can't stay together all the time, this time it's time to get used to it in advance. Aaron comforted it for a while before leading it to the Gryffindor table. At this time, there were only 5 people on the long table except for the leftovers, the 2 seniors, Hermione and Harry and Ron. Hermione, hearing this sudden cry, Hermione couldn't help trembling, then turned around resentfully. Sorry, I was thinking about something just now and didn't notice you. It seems that you are under a little more pressure. Aaron teased, and then put Abe in her arms. I will leave it to you, and I will just give it to me at dinner tomorrow morning. Hermione's voice was thin as a gossamer, and she didn't even dare to raise her head to meet his gaze. Is she okay? Aaron frowned slightly. It should be fine. Harry said, Hermione is just a little tired, just go back and sleep. Aaron didn't doubt either, he turned and walked towards the door. Hermione was not relieved until he left the auditorium. She looked at Harry and Ron full of resentment. You'd better not come to me for this kind of thing in the future, or I will definitely break up with you too. Understood, there won't be a next time. Ron said, and then took out a chicken leg he left on purpose. I prepared something good for it. Abe's eyes lit up when he saw the chicken leg, but he turned to look at Hermione. Her big eyes made her feel somewhat guilty. Hey! Eat as much as you want. Abe jumped on the dining table in an instant, and then started to chew, completely oblivious to the scheming smiles on the faces of the 2 people opposite him. Seeing Abe's performance, Harry and Ron's heart sank steadily. I'm afraid only they know how difficult it has been these few days. Abe's eating speed is not slow, and it takes only a few minutes to kill a chicken leg. Soon, a chicken bone appeared on the dinner plate, and Abe patted his stomach in satisfaction. Just as he was about to jump back into Hermione's arms, he felt dizzy, and there were countless double images in his vision. It staggered and stretched out its front paws, then lay down on the table. Hermione immediately picked it up, and patted its head with distress. Abe will be fine. No, I only added 3 drops, it should wake up after sleeping for 6 hours. Wait. Harry frowned, how much did you say you added? 3 drops of sleeping pills. Hee. Harry patted his forehead, I was worried that you forgot, so I added 3 more drops to it. Ron, good guy, this round of superposition directly turns the sleeping pill into an ecstasy. Ahem. Actually, it doesn't matter, 1 drop can make an animal sleep for 2 hours, and 6 drops is just enough for it to sleep until the next morning. In this way, we will have more time. At worst, if you wake it up tomorrow morning, Hermione, Aaron won't be able to see it. That's the only way. Hermione murmured softly, she didn't want to participate in this plan, but since she was already on board the thief boat, she could only try her best to row to the other side.